Translating. Yeah, I got my Hellbound signed DVD or Blu-ray. So here we have, we can start? Yeah, it's, okay. This is the panel, the distribution panel in Sitges, part of our Sitges Film Hub and Sitges Industry Hub operation. That is basically the umbrella that covers all the industry things that we organize in Sitges. This is the first time we do a distribution panel. Normally, are more the panels concern more the artistic part of the of film, but we will all agree. Everybody on this table will agree that things are changing so quickly. As Paul Schrader said in a masterclass last year, we are living in constant change, and even more than constant change. And as Mao Zedong also said, revolution only can exist in constant movement. So this is exactly what is happening in our industry at this moment. Here we have Sam Egan from Shoreline. It's a classic in all the markets and one of the most veteran distributors from the United States that you can find in Cannes, Berlin, Hong Kong, our dear Hong Kong market also. Also, we have Ferran Herranz, that he is also, although he's very young, he's a very well-established company, La Aventura, that is one of the few companies here in Spain that are part of all the TV deals they do, or online platforms, etc. He's also making fabulous home video editions of the films he buys. That is something that collectors like myself or Angel Sala will really appreciate. Fred Chui, our D, tonight in the Hong Kong Cocktail, also as a veteran of the Hong Kong film distribution and production from Media Asia. So yeah, Fred is gonna be the first distributor ever awarded in Sitges in 50 years. So I have to say, sorry, I have to ask for an applause for Fred. Thank you. Nate Balaudin is also very young, but already one of the hottest companies, XYZ. His company also, they started with production and distribution, and they are becoming bigger and bigger, and one of the reference for many other younger companies that are starting distribution and production in North America. Well, and actually that would be an understatement, because they are working also with, they are producing also in South Africa and other territories, and they are involved in productions in many territories. And then there we have William Lustig, Bill, a good friend of the festival also, and definitely one of the most interesting producers in one of the most in one of the richest periods of American horror and fantasy film during 70s and 80s, and he's still working very hard in probably one of the best boutique home video distribution companies in the world. And he will give you also a few details about Blue Underground, his company. And okay, here are our friends, and we can start. I have a question for you, and it's we can start with Sam. Do you agree that we are living in this? I'm sure you will agree. We are living in constant evolution. Every minute we are old. The next minute we are old of what we were doing the minute before. But how we can survive? How distribution can survive in this multi-format, multi-platform times we are living?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that because that's the topic of the session. I've been at Shoreline for 15 years. It's been my only job in the industry. The company has been around for 25 years. And from the beginning, I kept being told, things are changing. It's not like the old days, and how are we going to survive and all that. And it's been a constant change. A few years ago with the financial crisis I noticed a big pause and companies going out of business and a big change there. From my perspective, I remember that, and we are an entrepreneurial company, that the only our competitive advantage to the big, multinational studios is our ability to quickly adapt and change. And so we constantly are living in that space. So I think that it's interesting that the topic is, now is the time of change. And I wonder if that wasn't always the topic, and that will be in the future. And looking to the future is what I'm more concerned about today, because tomorrow is going to be different. And one of the things that I've been thinking about lately that's I find interesting in that is that our typical model has been to sell to all rights distributors in a territory by territory basis that localize it and directly to broadcasters. But as the world is changing with the platforms and these television channels, if you will, which are becoming global, provides opportunity or necessity for us to look at those kind of multi-territory deals. But I still think there's need for localization. But imagine 10 years from now, or 20 years from now, maybe 5 years from now, being able to take a film, put it through some software, have it dubbed locally, probably be dubbed with the original voice of the original actor.
Yeah.
If you just look at what we've seen in technology in our short lifetime. And so that's where I'm looking is how are we going to change from finding a distributor with that local knowledge to being able to distribute really worldwide.
Good points there. Ferran, you were actually nodding, saying yes to some of the points that Sam made. And yeah, I agree with a lot of them. No, a few of them, no, a lot of them. All of them, actually. Ferran.
Well, I can only speak for my territory, which is Spain, okay? And I mean, traditionally, and we're at a genre film festival, and traditionally, Spain has been a weak territory for genre. I mean, either you release a film with 200, 300, 500 prints, or you release it with 2, or you go straight to TV, or you go straight to video, or whatever. But as now creators, both creators and producers, are looking for global market in which every time there's less intermediarios.
Yeah, middle. Yeah.
I mean,
Middlemen or middle companies. Yeah, or brokers.
Every time they're looking that there's less people in the middle. I mean, Amazon or Netflix or whatever, they have worldwide rights. They want to reach the final user, and then there are people in the middle, local distributors, sales agents, that we have to figure out what we will do. To us, it's more or less easy because we only think that we have to keep our company as small as we can. I mean, I'd love to have one branch like the company of Mr. Lustig. I mean, I love Blue Underground so much, but I can say that Blue Underground in Spain, it would make no sense because
that's true.
Almost no Blu-ray release in Spain is profitable.
It's true. It's true.
So in the end, we're as distributors, we're finding more difficulties every time in trying to get all rights deals. Many times TV rights and VOD rights are already sold, and we are offered theatrical and video rights, and to us, I mean, even having them on distribution, even paying a ridiculous MG, or I mean, it's not profitable just to put the film out.
Yeah, to just release it. Yeah.
So in the end, and sadly to us, what most distributors are still looking for is finding films for the only people who is still attending theaters in Spain, who is 45 or 50 plus people, and we're talking about French comedies or German dramas or whatever. I mean, European films with a festival basis, and VOD market and pay TV market. I'm not saying free TV because it's so hard with genre films.
In Spain, it's
impossible. I mean, they're just being left out of our heads. I mean, we're starting to think that these rights don't exist anymore to us because it doesn't make sense. I mean, I completely understand that Amazon or Netflix wants to reach their final user, and I completely understand, and this was a polemics for maybe last Cannes. I mean, is there still the need to watch a film in a theater, or it's not that important from the moment that Bong Joon-ho or whoever, the films are going straight to streaming, no? So
yeah, let me make it. This last part of of your discourse was very interesting, and I would like to emphasize on Sitges' position on this, because we are in Sitges, and the festival position in regarding Netflix, or in this case the Netflix controversy in Cannes, is that we are very clear about that. We are programming Okja because we want to give the Spanish, or at least the Spanish Sitges or the Sitges audience, the possibility of watching this fantastic, fabulous, awesome film on a big screen. Obviously, that will be a small percentage of the Catalan or Spanish population, but at least some people will have the possibility of doing that. Also, we invited Bong Joon-ho until the Sweden very invited, but Bong had an accident. He's not coming, but we're still, of course, screening the film. We have to understand also, as you said, if it makes sense to still thinking about the theatrical possibility for these films produced by these platforms. We have to understand also that maybe in the world, only 20% of the population has a movie theater less than 25 miles from their homes. So sometimes we are a little bit urban centric. So we have to also understand that these people have to have the chance to watch these movies. And of course, movies were mostly created to be watched on a large screen, but there is a lot of people that cannot have this experience because there is a geographical impossibility. So we have to be open to this. I would never think that I would never criticize any festival because they are showing films from Netflix or Amazon or Movistar Plus in Spain. The other reason is, let's be honest, let's take Okja. Okja, read the script. Okja is about basically a giant pig and his love story with a girl. And it's a $50 million movie. Can you imagine anyone else, a part of Netflix, giving $50 million to a guy with this kind of story? They will be laughing. I mean, we have to give them credit for doing this. Fred, Ferran was explaining from his point of view the problems he's having in Spain and how he has to stay small to survive. Let's know your opinion from a completely different point of view, from a very, very large company and multinational company based in Hong Kong.
For me, I'm on the other side of the spectrum and basically selling films to
exactly.
you guys,
it's just the opposite.
So for us, like this new change in technology is actually very good for us because like Hong Kong films or Chinese films have become more and more difficult to be distributed anywhere in Europe and the States. We always they want to see the finished film, and they say the film is not theatrical enough. They want to only go to video, and they're paying like minimal money. But with Netflix, if they take over like the rest of the world and everything, many people can access our films now because like in Hong Kong, for example, I can watch like an Icelandic TV series, I can watch an Israeli TV series, which in the past is impossible. But now like everyone can watch whatever they offer, and it will be the same for like films. So of course, like as you say, I totally agree with what you say. We made films to be seen on a big screen, but if no distributor is willing to show the film on a big screen, that's an alternative. That's for the average audience, it's much better than not watching the film at all.
Yeah. You need a pen?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I have a notebook here. Nate, you also you can give your opinion from also two different perspectives, as a producer and also as a distributor, buying and selling, and also I remember your partner Todd Brown giving one of the most enlightening conferences in Udine Film Festival last year and talking about the different deals you're doing. And when you produce a film, sometimes you aim for the platforms if you have the opportunity, but sometimes you don't. And you specifically think that this specific film shouldn't go this way. Maybe you cannot give up much of your secrets about this. How do you prepare this or your strategy? But we would like to get some tips about how do you decide this film goes this way or this film goes the other way if we are talking distribution. And in this case, I'm talking films produced by XYZ.
Yeah, I mean, it's we're in a very exciting time. Actually, as a content creator, we have so many options now. And The thing that's problematic is that still there's not enough transparency. Distributors hide information from producers. Netflix doesn't share data, even though they're an incredible partner of ours. And I think that when we are developing stories with filmmakers, we're always wondering how is the consumer eventually going to consume it. And sometimes when we develop a project, we know it's going to be perfect for Netflix. Sometimes it must go to Sitges and then have a festival run and a theatrical experience. But yeah, ultimately, I do believe that it has to be specific to the story. And I think Okja was a good example of a movie that Netflix could afford because they're building a subscriber base. But if you think about if that movie, I mean, Blade Runner just was unfortunately unsuccessful at the box office this weekend. I'm not saying it should have been a Netflix movie, but they spent $130 million on a remake of a film starring Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford, and nobody went to see it.
Yeah.
I hate to say, but it's true that a lot of films and content is just better to be experienced in your home or on your mobile device. And then I also really believe that the lack of transparency needs to change immediately, because I think including sales agents, distributors are not sharing information openly with the content creators. And I think that equilibrium needs to shift immediately, actually. And I think that this will, unfortunately, you're probably seeing that a lot of distributors are upset because they're upset with Netflix and Amazon for disrupting their business. Well, they're disrupting their business because they're losing money, and they're no longer able to acquire content and make money with it because Netflix can overpay, because their business model is very different than selling to television or selling to digital and making box office revenue. So their business model is so different. And so they're very upset and angry with that. And I believe that within the next 5 years, I truly believe that this whole landscape will change. And I think that we can talk more about it, but I believe blockchain will be a huge revolutionary technology that will decentralize the movie business and television business and be able to give the consumer and the talent a direct relationship. Right now, there's too many middlemen in between the talent and the consumer.
Okay, thank you. I would say the highlights is stop non-transparency, and the other one would be please try to avoid as many brokers as you can. Okay, that's really cool.
So don't hire me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, we can. Yeah, you can be considered a broker partner. Sorry, guys. Let me turn it off. Oh no, I have to. Say yes. dígale sí que sí. Estic enmig d'un panel. Ya está. Dígale que sí. Gracias. Sorry about that. That was live on the internet. Thank you. But I have to run this festival also, so sorry about that. Out. Bill,
Yes.
Your experience is also similar to Ferran in terms that you also have a very top quality company, mostly focused on the home video entertainment, and specifically in top quality product, and a lot of them is also a classic product or a retrospective. But you are lucky, but you're in a much better position, and you can give a different angle from Ferran, because Ferran he's fighting in a territory that is quite weak, and home video is reaching definitely bad figures lately, and it's getting more and more complicated. But you are working in a territory that even probably worse than a few years ago in terms of home video, but is still one of the only probably two territories in the world where home video is still profitable. That is the United States. The other one is probably Germany. I don't think the UK is anymore. Mm-hmm. But so how is the situation right now? It reached the bottom and is going to be consistent, and or is going to go worse, or the special collector's edition will get a rise.
Well, look, Blue Underground is in the catalog movie business. I'm not in the XYZ business. I'm putting out movies that are 25 years old or more. And I started Blue Underground 15 years ago. And when I started the company, it was focused on trying to be the rock and roll, the Criterion collection, but the rock and roll version. Criterion is the classical section. We looked at ourselves as being pop culture and, and kind of cool movies in their own right. And it was great because I had a clear field. I was out there buying the cream of the available genre movies. The sellers undervalued their films, and I had a picnic. I was buying up films, and the technology was such that we could turn a profit on our films. That's changed. I'm now dealing with a slew of competitors out there.
True.
And the market is highly cannibalized, and mainly because there's only so many outlets for marketing your film. And if you have all these competitors, you don't really have a lot of space to get to get the consumer to recognize your film and buy it. Having said that, at least Blue Underground has a brand. It has a loyal following. I'm being a lot more choosy in the deals that I do. I won't do deals unless they're all rights. I'm distributing films primarily on physical media, but also digital and theatrical. I'm finding there's a really viable theatrical marketplace for genre films in the States, and it's growing. There's this customer, I guess I would call him the Alamo Drafthouse customer, who doesn't want to stay at home and watch movies alone. They want the communal experience of going out to see a genre film with friends and have a good meal and drinks and enjoy the movie. So we're getting a lot of theatrical play on our films, and but it's tough out there. Look, the marketplace is really, the way I see it, is divided in three places. There is the mainstream frontline marketplace, which is the XYZ, and most, I think your company is a first run frontline. That consumer will watch the films, whether it's on DVD, Blu-ray, digital. They don't really care. They just want to see the movie and experience it, and that's it. And then there is the budget consumer. That's the one who wants 5 zombie films on a DVD for $5, and they don't care. They don't care about the quality. I'm in the collector business, and my customer cares. They're fanatical in how much they care about the attention to detail on what we put out. And so we give it that same attention to detail, and it's costly and it's time consuming, but that's what we have to do to keep the business going. And that marketplace, surprisingly, has stayed pretty durable. It went down after 2008-9, but it's kind of been flat since.
Okay.
It hasn't really gone down much more.
Okay.
At least that's been my experience with my company.
That's
And I've been able to raise the suggested retail price.
Excellent.
So I've been able to yield a bigger margin on the physical media, and the sales have been okay.
That's very interesting. I think this is more or less the impression that people has in general. But I also hear, and I'm very happy because, as I said,
By the way,
I'm a collector.
Fernando.
No. It's okay. It's okay. Yes, sorry about that. And but the other day, for example, I heard the CEO of Hulu saying that my little sister will never buy a DVD again, and. Maybe yes or maybe no. Do you think that that maybe the future to maintain this stability at the bottom, but this stability, so everybody's adapting to this new business model based on less sales. But do you think it's going to keep this way with the collector's edition and more quality? Do you think this is realistic, or this is just wishful thinking?
Mike, you're my prime type customer.
But I'm old.
No, that's true. But there's also I'm here with a lot of young people who come up to me with the Blu-rays and DVDs.
You're right. Okay.
I mean, a collector is a unique person. Not everybody's a collector. My brother is not a collector. He loves movies, but he doesn't give a shit. You know, in fact, he gives me back some of my Blue Underground titles I give him, because he's not going. He says, I'm never going to sit and watch all the extras and commentaries and everything else. I watch the movie and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, that's, you know, makes it interesting. Not everyone's a collector,
Yes.
but the collectors are fanatical, and they're loyal.
Just let me say for the people who is watching this that Bill is one of the few probably examples of a successful director that has also become a distributor. There is not many around the world. Bill directed Maniac, Maniac Cop, and a lot of beautiful films from the 1970s. Yeah. So that's definitely a Sitges thing. It's Sitges gold, we could call it.
Yeah, well, I've always been I'm a collector. I've been a collector from day one. I've been a collector, and I started Blue Underground just to be able to share my experience of certain movies that were underappreciated by other companies like Vestron and stuff. They kind of, I decided I wanted to do Criterion level collector editions
Excellent.
of films that I love and share them with all of you.
Sam, please.
Yeah, just a couple things that came to mind. One is the big point that I forgot about. Before I mentioned that, though, Nate mentioned about Netflix and the transparency issue.
Yeah.
And that's like a buzz term that everybody's complaining about. But from my perspective, I thought about it the other day, and Netflix is still a mystery to us. We sell films to them for a lot of money, and some there are teeny offers or no offer in place. And I worry about the films that we have sold to them for a lot of money. And you even mentioned Netflix overpaying in the market. And their model is maybe not even how many people watch the film, but showing that they're doing something exciting to build a subscriber base. And that if there was transparency there, and they're a publicly traded company, would they still be able to go out there and overpay? And that, if they're giving us a flat fee and they're licensing it for that time, I'm not sure we really need to know how many people watch it or how long they watch it when they watch it, and maybe we don't want to know that.
My only thought there is that as the filmmaker, as the creator of the content, I think it's important to know how many people are watching your content. I think it's really important to know how many people are seeing it and where and when and for how long. And I think that information should be made available to everyone. It should be fully open. And I think the concept, yes, I think there will be possibly effects in the economic structures of some of the deals. But I think that over time, the equilibrium of that will be beneficial for everyone. It's just a philosophy that I believe in. It's not really a business model. I just believe that as a storyteller and a creator of intellectual property, that information should be made available to you.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you from that perspective.
But as
and
a
I'm
business
more
person,
on the business model.
Of course.
Than
And
my
by the way, we
heart.
do
And
a
so-
ton of business with Netflix,
Yeah.
and they're an incredible partner. And I love the way that they are forward thinking about taking risks with certain kinds of content. But at the end of the day, I just feel like the storyteller and the filmmaker should have a little bit more power.
Right. Remember, though, wasn't their original business model to be transparent and to give us a portion of the revenue generated on the films?
Yep.
And then we all turned around and said, you ain't paying shit. You can't have the content anymore.
Right.
And then they're like, okay, we'll give you this much money up front, and
Yeah.
we'll take it. So, I mean, anyway, but I don't disagree. But the big thing that I forgot to mention is really part of what's going to change, or what has changed, is the amount of content that's available.
Oh, yeah.
And, you don't have to go back that far in history where you had, maybe a 2 to 5 year time span of films that were created, except for some of the collector films that were out there and available for people to buy, to monetize one way or another. And in the recent years, not only are the films not going away, but the older titles are being added to the mix. And from everybody here, we curate the films to the festivals, and everybody in the distribution community curates to some degree, but directors don't curate their own film. They don't finish the film, think it's not very good, and nobody should see it and put it aside. And now they have access on some of the platforms to make those films available. So not only are the films competing for, on a marketing side, for the audience with other films that have been curated one way or another, but you've got all the films in the past, all the films in the future, and then you have tons of new content that none of us think is worth anything, and Nate might even agree doesn't deserve to be seen. I don't know, that might be going too far for you, but it's just the volume out there is really hard to figure out how to get that film monetized and seen in the audience.
And Ferran, your point of view is focused on the local market of the Spanish territory, but I think it's similar also. It can also be similar to other territories with similar populations and business models like Italy, for example, or Portugal, or even Korea sometimes. And you mentioned that it's getting more and more difficult to get global or at least all rights deals. But when you get them, how do you structure this business model, your business model? How do you implement it?
As of now, it's basically to have a theatrical appeal, and by theatrical appeal, I'm not talking about what Mr. Lustig was saying about Alamo Drafthouse or whatever. We have the best theater in the Spanish territory is in Barcelona. It's called Phenomena, okay, and that's an experience to go. But it's not what common
theatrical deal works.
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, it's one theater, so that's for your P&L. This doesn't affect it much.
Course,
the income, the revenue is minimum. Yeah.
So in the end, what we have to know is, for instance, we're specializing in art house lately. We have acquired the latest 5 films of Aung San Suu, for instance, or we're competing. Now we have 5 films in Sitges, which we're very happy. Okay, but next we're going to Seville with 3 titles, to Valladolid with 2 more titles, to Gijón with 3 titles. We were in San Sebastian with 3 titles, and I'm talking about Frederick Wiseman. I mean, we bought the latest Frederick Wiseman documentary, 3-hour-and-a-half documentary on the New York Public Library. It's a piece of art. Mm-hmm. It's great, and the MG was plain ridiculous. I mean, we bought it just because we didn't want it to be unreleased in Spain or to remain unreleased in Spain, because a couple of Mr. Wiseman's films within the last 5 years, they went straight to a streaming site that no one even noticed, okay? So in the end, it's adapting your size to things that can let you live in a niche, world, and being out and keeping yourself out of leagues like XYZ, which, I mean, we love their movies, but of course we understand that they try to make global deals.
Yeah, of course.
And they don't need to be like asking the local distributor how many DVDs got sold or how many people attended the screenings. Most of all because, I mean, they were talking about transparency. Of course, everyone that asks us, whatever they ask, I mean, we will respond. But if we respond, maybe you will cry when reading it, okay?
But you mentioned XYZ, but there is also, some of them you get global deals, but sometimes you talk to the territories. You have sold recently a few of your latest movies, and they are quite big to Spain, to A Contracorriente, which is one of your competitors also, and very good friends. A Contracorriente were invited, David Michans, but he couldn't make it finally, but he was invited because it's also a company with a very, very interesting strategy and business model. Fred, finally in this kind of panels, I don't know why, but everything finally just goes and finishes in China and talking about China. So can you just give us some examples of how do you work with the Chinese market in terms of VOD platforms? And they are looking also for how we were talking here about global deals. So how does it work for you in terms of can be considered, is so huge that it can be considered a global deal? It's can you explain it to us?
It's China because like Netflix and cannot go to China.
That's very unique.
That's an advantage. So we can actually sell everything to Netflix except China. So we can still go through the existing model. We can do theatrical. We can do SVOD afterwards and everything. But then we can also have the at least the choice to sell to Netflix, and they cannot insist to have China as well. So it works out perfect for us.
Cool, excellent.
Yes, like for example, like there's a film I cannot really disclose at this point, but Netflix is producing the film. Big director, biggest cast, one of the biggest casts ever, and then.
Sorry, it's a Chinese film?
It's an international film.
Okay.
And yet, like, China, because they cannot go to China, so we have the opportunity to release the film in China, where, like, normally it's not possible. So it's like we can still have theatrical release, big theatrical release, whereas the rest of the world can only see it on a small screen. So cool. For us it's perfect. It's also great for the filmmaker.
Yeah, in your case, is kind of the opposite in terms that theatrical for you is please let me know if I'm wrong, but I have the idea that is a smaller part of your revenue, and you're just the opposite. You're mostly your business model is based on VOD and home video and all that. Is that correct? And you're selling to every territory in the world, well, except North Korea probably. But you're selling to every territory in the world. So can you also elaborate about and compare it a little bit with companies like Fred's, like Media Asia?
Well, yeah, because we do worldwide. The plan A, the first opportunity is an all rights distributor who's going to localize at least the marketing of the film and work each window in that territory from a local knowledge base. On a side to plan A is we do have relationships with broadcasters in various territories where sometimes the value is with the broadcast, where we would do that separately. But when plan A, there is no deal that works in the all rights, then wherever the value is, that's what we try to exploit. And in different territories, I think as we've already discussed here, there are different windows that work and windows that don't work and windows that used to that aren't, and windows that are hopefully emerging that do. But at the end of the day, from my perspective, is if you put it in front of everybody in a good way who can possibly monetize the film in each territory.
Yeah.
And then you figure out where the value is on that film at that time in that market. And there really is no other way to do that until you've talked to everybody.
All of you have heard, it comes on and off, this rumor, but recently has been again quite strong, is about that major companies are going to start working in a way that they're not going to be, it's not going to be territories like we think about, like nations or countries, but it's going to be big regions. And obviously this will kill lots of the business model of the companies that are here today. How would you react to this? Nate, for example.
I think from a traditional sales agency perspective, it's very scary because the licensing to a specific territory, it goes away. And so the financing model behind funding traditional independent film becomes obsolete. So you can't actually structure independent film finance the way that you normally do. You'd have to do more business with the global streaming partners like the Netflixes and Amazons of the world. It's very scary. But I also think that to say again, I think it's very important that the consumer and the talent is closer. And I think that all this like rearranging and sort of gerrymandering of region and district, it's really just a bunch of nonsense, because at the end of the day, technology should eventually enable niche consumers. I think we're all in the niche. We're here at Sitges, so we love fantastic movies and we have an audience. But the problem is that we have too many people in the middle that are trying to make too much money before the consumer is able to consume the content, because we all run businesses. We love being sales agents, we love being producers, we love being distributors, but it's inefficient, highly inefficient.
Well,
but I think this will cause a disruption.
Oh yeah.
That will force people to reevaluate the way that we deliver intellectual property and stories to the consumer.
Yeah, Ferran, I forgot to say that this rumor normally involves Europe mostly.
Primarily,
we are talking about Europe. Ferran.
First of all, regarding Europe, there's the language issue. I mean, every territory, and mostly Spain or Italy, I mean, there are countries in Europe that they have never screened a subtitled film. So, dubbing studios will will have to work in any case, and TV stations will have to broadcast dubbed films. And so in Europe, we're not really worried about that. Now I'm going to say, I mean, it's a bit tough to say it like this, but it's like Darwinian.
Darwinian, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 30 years ago, we met people working in film that they only knew, you know, how to smile or something like this. I mean, now people with talent, even to write and direct a movie, or people with enough talent to make a service or a platform successful and global, these people will have their rewards, and people that only smiled here and there and bought and sold and sold and bought and kept their business. Like, I mean, they learned like 40 years ago. I mean, it will not make sense. And that's normal. I mean, I'm not here complaining that I will never buy a Rolls Royce because of being a distributor. Of course, no. We will have to be intelligent in marketing our 5 or 6 print releases in Spain, and we will have to be very careful with what we do, but at the end of the day, we will still be happy to work in what we love most, no?
Wow. Very good. If there is any question from the audience, and and also autographs from Bill are accepted, I suppose, because I see a couple of people that want your autograph and for your signature on their DVD releases.
I hope they're not checks.
Yeah, definitely not. Is there any question from the audience? Okay. Yeah, they will bring you a mic here. Yeah.
Yeah, my question is for Nate. That you said that the blockchain technology is going to change the way that the distribution is going to be in the next 5 years, and I was wondering how do you think it's going to happen that?
Well, I think 2 ways. One, I think the way that we fund the content itself will be completely reimagined. Right now, we rely on pre-sales through international territorial sales, which is structured through debt finance. So you work with institutional lenders and banks, and then there's obviously private investors. And so we create collateral to be able to fund projects. But in the world of blockchain, you can create a valuation of your intellectual property and create an ecosystem whereby the IP is its own ecosystem. And you no longer need to go and work with a sales agent or a distributor at all. In fact, you can do everything on a decentralized platform that would have a direct consumer relationship and would allow the consumer to pay what they want to pay for content, but also you could raise capital through, this is very specific, but ICOs and token generation events that would allow you to be able to establish market capitalization for your story. And so now you don't need a music label or a distribution company. You can have a direct relationship now with your consumer and create an entire brand for yourself. And I think that will be the future of content creation, strongly.
You know, I have a question for you. Don't you think that that filmmakers coming to you, let's say with a finished picture, not ones you produce in-house, but a filmmaker coming to you with a finished picture. By the time they finish the picture, they're exhausted. They are strung out financially, emotionally, in every which way. And really what they want is for you to save them, to get them back their investment and hopefully a profit, and for them to move on to the next picture. Why would a filmmaker in that emotional and financial state want to then take a greater risk in stringing out his cash flow by going kind of direct to the consumer? I could see that as a last resort, but I don't know if that's going to be the first thing that a filmmaker is going to want to do.
So what I'm primarily talking about is not the distribution of a finished film. I'm talking about the funding of new projects.
Okay.
So as opposed to having to go through the traditional model of raising capital. By the way, for most of you here, so we work on lots of movies every year that we didn't produce. So we represent third-party producers and we sell their films.
Yeah, purely distribution.
I would say that over 90% of the investors are losing their money, maybe 95%. This is a highly inefficient model, and it doesn't work. And there's a sexy factor to being involved in the investment of movies because you get to come to Sitges. No, but
Oh yeah.
but there's something else about it. But if you talk to most traditional investors in film, the people that make the most money are the sales agents because we sit at the top of the waterfall. So when we sell a film that has been invested in, let's say X million dollars, we could sell it for $500,000 and we're taking 10% or 15%. When you distribute a film, you take a distribution fee. So at the end of the day, the waterfall, whereby the equity investors or the real exposed investors are sitting, are most likely not going to make their money back. There will always be new investors, I believe, because this industry is very attractive. But I do strongly believe that blockchain will allow for the consumer and the storyteller to be closer.
Okay.
And I do believe it will change the way that we're able to deliver content. I understand that giving something for free on a platform is not the way to make money, but it will change. I think we'll have to revolutionize the way that we operate our business.
Also, the other thing I'm finding is, with all the talk that we're doing, it seems like the passion for salesmanship, for the P.T. Barnum has gone out of the business. You know, I think it died with Menachem Golan. Where you go out there and you really pump up your movie. You know, it's not just something on a sheet, but you go out there and you really sell it. You know, you don't really see that much anymore. It seems like everything is polite conversation instead of like, you got to buy this movie, and you know.
You think these guys should go back to really hustling their movies?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I saw it leave the business. I was fortunate. I got into the international business with my movie Maniac, and literally, I carried the cans from the lab to the airport. I'm carrying my own 35 millimeter prints because I didn't want to ship them. I'm going to Cannes, and I had a great sales agent. He sold D.W. Griffith movies, and I had made the movie, and I put a Dolby Stereo soundtrack. I wanted it to play in a big theater in Cannes, and he says, no, we're going to play it in the smallest theater in Cannes. And you know why we played it in the smallest theater in Cannes? Because we packed it, we sold out, and then the next day on the Croisette, all I kept hearing was I tried to get into the Maniac screening and couldn't. No one asked how many seats are in the theater. All they know is they couldn't get in. He invited kids from a local school to be seated amongst the distributors.
Kids were watching Maniac?
Oh yeah. Well, come on, you know. And,
Of course I know.
And the kids were screaming and yelling and all this amongst the distributors. So we were selling territory sight unseen because the distributor wanted to get. I remember we sold Germany for 6 figures plus because they were hearing the reaction and they couldn't get into the movie. That's the kind of stuff I don't really see today. That kind of thinking about how do you excite people about the movie and not just talk politely over lunch, just, get that kind of thing. And I'll give you the results. The results were I made the movie. I shot it for $48,000. The total cost of the film was about $135,000, and we sold over $1 million 4 weeks after getting the print out of the lab.
$1 million of 1978.
And that was just foreign.
1981.
And domestic, we did over $500,000 guarantees on the picture. So, it's and we did it repeatedly. I did it on Vigilante. We did it on Maniac Cop. We did on Maniac Cop 2. I mean, it was not something that it was something that was repeatable. So it was a business to do it that way. And for some reason, I noticed in the 90s when there were more number crunchers that entered the business, and the people who owned the companies talked more like MBAs and not about movies. You didn't talk about movies. They were talking more like kind of numbers and this and that, and I could and they zapped the excitement out of it. And I wonder if the time is right for there to be a sales agent who goes out there and really sells the movie and goes out there and really pumps it up.
Here's the problem. though.
You haven't been in one of our markets and in one of our stands.
You have
for
no
the record.
idea.
I mean, you have no idea. And now Nate should say what he wants to say, but while I'm talking, I should say that what you're talking about, that energy and pumping the movie and all that this point that we're in right now with the social media aspect of it, there's much more of an opportunity and there's more of that going on with the filmmakers to the consumers about the films. It hasn't been available before. And that period that we were talking about, the financial crisis, is before that, buyers were running around the market trying to figure out what the next buzz title was going to be. They were buying the films without seeing it. They were certainly buying the films without the rest of the team seeing it. And then the companies started losing money. The buyers lost their ability to go to the market and buy immediately without having a committee decision. And things slowed down, and now they're actually looking at the film. And so our job is limited, unfortunately, where we can get somebody excited about looking at the film, but then the film has to speak to them as there being a financial opportunity there. And that time that you're talking about, it was different.
Yeah, I completely agree. We invest in and produce a lot of, I'd say, edgy movies that are hard to finance in today's day and age. I mean, we have, I think, Brawl in Cell Block 99 tomorrow. We had Mom and Dad yesterday.
And today.
And these are films that we're very passionate about. I mean, the filmmakers are very important people to us. But as Shoreline knows, when we're very passionate sellers. But let me tell you that when you meet with distributors, they're in a very difficult place right now. I mean, in the international territories, it is so bad. And I've looked at the P&Ls of the way that they are structuring their acquisitions, how much they can put up as advances against the distribution rights.
It's appalling.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's completely broken.
Yeah.
It's 100% broken. So all we can do now is empower great filmmakers and figure it out. That's all we can do. And so that's really, if it's Netflix, fine. If it's independent distributors like L'Aventura, great. But at the end of the day, all I really care about is making great films. And however we get those films to the people, I'll do whatever it takes, but the system right now doesn't work.
So this is your formula to keep on surviving and fighting on this constant evolution. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Please.
One slide.
We'll have to
and
finish, but please, Sam. Yeah. Please go ahead.
There's no answer to anything, but one thing that I've noticed that's been happening is as the amount of those MGs has been decreasing, we've actually been getting royalties.
Yeah, because it's more, the equilibrium is better.
Right.
It's fairer now. They're not overpaying for the films. So
don't make it so Netflix stops overpaying.
No, that's true. but it's a great point, actually. Everyone's always like, oh, we need to sell our film for the most amount of money. But that's not really like the concept behind the democratization of film distribution. Like the producer selling or the sales agent selling the film, selling it for the most amount of money is not necessarily the best thing. Because if the distributor loses money from paying too much, it can put them out of business. And it happens all the time. So I get it, it's exciting to have a windfall and a liquidity event of this type, but it's not always the best thing. Sometimes we're all very selfish. We want our films to make the most amount of money, but for distributors, they actually benefit from having a more stabilized model, and ultimately the revenue share deals actually end up paying off for us too.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess I have a different philosophy.
Bill, yeah, well, it's
Take-
okay.
take-
Yeah, no, you can finish.
You know,
Bill will be the
take
last
the money,
contribution.
take the money, and feel sorry later.
That's also a nice motto for this panel, and a beautiful epilogue. Yeah, thank you very much.
That's been my philosophy.
Thank you very much, Bill, and to everybody watching this from all around the world. I hope. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming here, Sam, Ferran, Fred, Nate, and Bill.
By the way,
sorry.
Fernand, thank you. Fernand saved two of my movies from the hands of pirates in Spain.
Yes,
and I
yes.
want to publicly thank him for reaching out to me and saving two of my films. So, Fernand,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
That deserves an applause in the times we are living. So thank you very much. We have to leave now. The Hong Kong cocktail is in 20 minutes, and you can see Fred being awarded. Thank you, guys.